We are a little over a week away from the 2023 NFL Draft, and Ohio State has the most first-round selections of all time and the third most overall picks behind only USC and Notre Dame. I'm joined by Owen, Gawel, and Sam Becker previewing the Ohio State players going on to the NFL Draft. And starting at the top, Sam, I mean, there's no doubt about that Ohio State's going to continue their streak of 7 consecutive seasons going back to 2015 with an NFL first-round draft pick, headlined right at the top by C.J. Stroud.
Yeah, you know, it's really interesting because after the Panthers traded up with the Bears for the first overall pick, I think it was widely expected that Stroud would be the pick. Frank Reich was notorious for utilizing taller quarterbacks, so Bryce Young didn't really seem like the fit. However, Adam Schefter has recently been reporting that Bryce Young is undoubtedly the pick, so this changes things on Stroud's projection in that area. I really think Stroud changed the perception on his play after the Georgia game, showing he could play out of structure when things aren't perfect, but obviously you want that structure in place nonetheless. So with that being said, I think there are 2 locations for him that would be perfect in this draft, either 4 to the Colts or 7 to the Raiders. The Colts already have a pretty established run game, a great offensive line, and Michael Pittman, a young up-and-coming receiver, would certainly help. That would be a good connection for Stroud. And also, playing in that division wouldn't hurt either, one of the weakest in the NFL. Secondly, the Raiders would be a great landing spot for Stroud because of the weapons in Devontae Adams, Jacoby Myers, Josh Jacobs, also a solid offensive line. And also, although they just signed Jimmy Garoppolo, I really think in a tough quarterback system like Josh McDaniels, it would be helpful for him to be able to sit behind a veteran like Garoppolo for a while.
Right, and the Raiders, in my mind, would have to move up to get Stroud because everything I've heard is within that top 4, it's likely going to be Young and Stroud. Young, obviously, going number 1. I don't see Stroud falling below number 4, but you move a little bit later, probably about the number 10 pick range, and you get to about Jackson Smith and Jigba territory. I've seen NFL mocks where they have the Texans taking Stroud at 2, and then they have them picking Jackson Smith and Jigba just 10 picks later, trying to link up those college teammates.
Yep, I mean, JSN, Stroud's favorite target, his sophomore year, racked up 1,600 yards. Junior year, obviously limited with the hamstring, so there's some concern going into the draft, how that would affect him. But hands down, still the betting favorite to be the first receiver off the board. Texans, as you mentioned, would be awesome to see him reunite with Stroud, the potential duo there. I also think there's a chance for the Bears to take him and reconnect him in Fields. JSN, there were some concerns about the speed, ran a 4.48. That's comparable to CD Lamb, so no concerns there. I think you should expect JSN to be the first receiver off the board in the draft.
And everybody raves about his agility and his route running abilities and just his footwork in general. And one other guy that really kind of stands out when it comes to footwork is Paris Johnson Jr., kind of a mid-first round selection. I mean, he really showed out at the pro day, just being able to show off his footwork at that left tackle position. Sam, what do you see from Paris Johnson ahead of the NFL draft?
Well, like you said, at first it might have been expected that Paris was a mid-first round pick, but I think all indications are that he's a great interview and obviously tested phenomenally in his pro day. So I think you could look at a surprise on the draft day of him shooting up top 10, maybe even top 7 territory, and easily solidifying himself as the best tackle 1 in the draft.
And do you think, because I've seen, it's sort of a debate between Paris, Pete Skoronski, and Broderick Jones from Georgia. Do you think Paris Johnson is worthy of that number 1 offensive tackle role?
I absolutely do. I think the proof is in his years at Ohio State. We haven't seen a tackle like him in quite some time, and I think it's really evident in his play, his interviews. I mean, this is a guy with a tremendous IQ for the game, but also off the field, which really a lot of teams will respect that. And I do think he will be the first tackle off the board.
Right, and I think sort of a key piece talking about Paris Johnson is just his versatility, just being able to move from the right side of the line in his sophomore season, then over to left tackle, where, I mean, he only gave up, 2 sacks all season? So, I mean, just in over 400 snaps in pass pro, he only gave up probably about 12 to 14 hurries all total. So he's definitely got the resume and to be able to be sort of that early to mid first round selection. One guy, I mean, you're not going to see any Buckeyes likely taken in the second round, but a guy in the third round that could be a sneaky steal is Zach Harrison, just a former 5-star coming out of high school.
Yep, as you said, Zach Harrison, former 5-star Olentangy native, so he's from here, homegrown. I wouldn't be surprised to see him jump up a little earlier in the draft than people expect. Some would say he was a little disappointing at times for Ohio State. He had a lot of hype coming in, but I think teams will fall in love with his physical tools and his ceiling for him to develop a little more and maybe become that 5-star type of dominant force that he could in the NFL. So maybe jump up a little earlier in the draft than people may assume watching him at Ohio State.
Right. I mean, just sort of a breakout senior season. There were a lot of questions like, when is he kind of going to figure this out? And you kind of saw that just after years working with Larry Johnson, just being able to get the technique, the speed, and the physicality all put together in his senior season. And so now in the most recent ESPN mock, he was selected by the Jacksonville Jaguars. Well, that's obviously yet to be seen. But the next guy I want to talk about is DeJuan Jones. I mean, I think he was called a confirmed house at the NFL Scouting Combine, just a freak of athleticism despite just his freakish size, let alone just being able to play right tackle at Ohio State.
Yeah, you know, DeJuan, obviously a monster of a man. Coming out of high school, basketball, football, he really did it all. That would be a scary thing to see on the court. But anyway, he really made tremendous strides, only a 3-star recruit, but early on you heard things in the building that this guy's a bit different. You know, the size, the skill. He struggled at times early on, but really pieced it together. Him and Paris were one of the best combos in the nation on those bookends. And I really think he's gaining steam with NFL teams. Had a great Senior Bowl where he attracted a lot of attention there. And all indications are that he's a guy that's going to go late first, early second. So we'll see with that, but certainly intriguing prospect for NFL teams with that size.
Right, exactly. I mean, that's something you can't teach, right? Just being able to have that size in your back pocket, just being able to, but it's not all about size. In the NFL, you got to have the hands, the technique, the footwork to be able to block a guy like Kayvon Thibodeau coming off the end right there. So is there anybody that y'all see potentially flying under the radar? Like, who do you think would be the biggest value pick for a team of the guys we mentioned or someone that we didn't mention?
Well, one more that I'd mention would be Luke Whippler. I think a lot of Buckeye fans were honestly surprised with him even entering the draft. That might be an indication that he got some good feedback that maybe he could be a day 2 pick. Currently, mock drafts aren't really reflecting that, but in a perfect world, I think a landing spot that would be pretty cool for a New Jersey kid. Whippler grew up a massive Jets fan, named his dog after Mark Sanchez, which is a player that Jets fans love, really fallen under the radar in NFL lore, but Jets fans still show their love for Mark Sanchez. And also, we're number 74 in high school because he was a massive fan of former Buckeye and Jet legend Nick Mangold. So obviously, you know, the center position's a bit devalued in the NFL compared to those tackles. However, I think this is a guy that could fly under the radar, and it would just really make for a cool story if he did end up going to the Jets.
Yeah, for sure. Just a plethora of Buckeyes looking to etch their names into that historic list. 3rd most selections all time among any college right there at Ohio State. But we'll have to see where each guy goes. There's projected 3 first-rounders, so keep your eyes out next Thursday, April 27th, for the NFL Draft. For Owen, Gawel, and Sam Becker, I'm Casey Smith. Until next time, take care.